Heart Sutra on page 8. I prostrate to the eye of the triple head. Thus did I hear at one time. Bhagavan was dwelling on Masaroja's mountain in Rashikriya together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena, called profound perception. Also, at that time, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and behold those five aspects also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the venerable is to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, how should any son of each train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, said this to the venerable Shariputra, and his son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, the holding thus five aggregates also is empty of infinite nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, statements not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional practice, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no eye element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, there is no result of wisdom, no attainment, and also no knowledge. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point. Or the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifest the complete unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in the minds of the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that all suffering should be known as fruits into this knowledge. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is the Tayata Omgati, Gate Parasomgati Bodhi Soha, Shariputra Bodhisattva Masa, that perfection of wisdom. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration. Bodhisattva Masa, well said, well said. One should practice the Bhagavan those surrounding their entire moral world are humans, animals, and general who are controlled and light that spoken by the Bhagavan. I prostrate to the gathering of the who abide in the holy earth of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after the practitioner like a mother of a child. Akasamara Sashabara Samara Yaka. Akasamara Sashabara Samara. By the teachings of three supreme jewels possessing the power, may inner and outer ignorance be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be pacified, may they be completely pacified, may all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified, may we be separated from formless, harmful conditions of Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. Turning over to page 15.
Listening to the teachings, contemplating, in relation to this last great scope, the great scope, Mahayana scope, enlightenment. As presented here by explanations, stages and practice. So, as I've been referring to the hymn of experience, I'll recite the verses as we go along. The generation of the mind is the central post of the mind. The base and support great waves of conduct. A philosopher's stone, transforming all into the two collections. A treasure of merit gathering infinite virtue. We understood this. The heroic children of the conquest maintain deeply the pledges of this precious supreme mind. I and you practice like this. You who desire liberation should be likewise. So I looked up philosopher's stone just to refresh my memory. What it means is that supreme perfection of enlightenment. Actually means that. And that the two collections, we talk about the two collections here, which is the path of Bodhisattva, of the collection, the vast accumulation of collection of merit through Bodhisattva deeds, and the collection of wisdom through meditation practice. Which, as Shantideva said in chapter 9, on the Bodhisattva's way of life, going through all the perfections, not there yet, we can go through an outline, that all the previous perfections were taught in experience. Here, here we arrive, having investigated with a Mahayana great scope motivation from our side, as long as I said, this is the three scopes. Great path for enlightenment, practice the one individual practitioner in whatever way we enter the path. In fact, if the entranceway to the paths and grounds of Mahayana practice is said to be uncontrived bodhicitta, in an inferential, at least, understanding of realizing emptiness based on direct assumption, valid reason, and so forth. So we have a small scope and a middle scope practice, which we have looked at that enhancing our goals, so that through personal liberation we transcend to the enticements, the glamour of the samsaric pleasures that surround us. So we're able to relinquish our indulgence. However, there's so much more to transcend, so much more to achieve. To fulfill both our own purpose and the Mahayana viewpoint of saying our own purpose is to become a Buddha. Why? To achieve the purpose of others, to be able to take on a sort of sense of universal responsibility for the world. It's in it. That's why we have to generate this mind. We need to generate this mind based on great compassion, based on compassion. And so it's called the doorway. The door, the business door to the Mahayana, to the Mahayana. Because even we may have trained, or even we haven't yet attained shamatha, the single point of concentration, or the direct perceptual realization of emptiness. Still, the mere aspiration of bodhicitta, just that mere aspiration places us on the Mahayana path. So conversely, we could have attained shamatha. We could have a direct perceptual realization of emptiness, understand reality as it is. But if the force of bodhicitta doesn't accompany that mind, then it can degenerate within our mind stream and we fall from from our great purpose. We fall from the Mahayana path. And this is explicitly warned against in quite detail in Trading's on the realization of commentary itself on the perfection of wisdom. And interestingly enough, the element of derealization is presented in the start with Buddha, we start with that, right? And we're like, cool, to inspire us. Yeah, that's what I want. And we have to keep inspiring. When we dwell with bodhicitta and in the practice of this, even the smallest practice in watching, a morsel of food, because of our nature, as we said, pain comes out of the mind. But when we lack that, even the most profound pure ethics, pure generosity, chaos becomes such a massive power. So we may have practice. So when we talk about cultivating presentation on the education are So you take up the itself. Then we turn, so basically we look at it, you know, as, so when we look at the bodhisattva paths and grounds, you know, the first two paths, path of accumulation and the path of preparation, is one countless great here. And then we enter the path of seeing, with the direct perceptual realization of emptiness, and all the way up to that, plus the path of meditation, on which we're not just meditating, we're engaging in all the bodhisattva practices. So this, which takes us from the second ground, bodhisattva ground, up to the seventh ground, is the practice of meditation. So that's another pathway. I'm just saying, we're in here for the long haul. Some of you have already been here for the long haul because you've been around a long time, right? We know it's a long haul, right? And then, you know, those sort of think, oh, this, you know, in the you know, sort of 8, 9, 10 grounds, it's sort of like one part of the mind might think, oh no, that's I've perfected all of that, so now I'm just cruising to Buddhahood. No, it's another path's gradient of practice, and then the completion of tantra on top. No more, finding no more. So it's a lot, and that's why we need all these methods. You know, so the causes that give rise to bodhicitta, presented by Shantideva in the compendium on the bodhisattva training, or bodhisattva levels, I think sometimes. So there are the 4 conditions, and we can relate. I think it's important to relate this to our life right now, and how I might have arrived. How, you know, it did. There's, as the Buddha said, there's no accident. Things don't happen by accident or just by chance. You know, that we have created the conditions to be here. Why is that we end up not only in Mahayana, find ourselves in Mahayana tradition, but the most refined, sublime view is presented by those understanding dependent arising. So the most refined view, the most, our, you could say our motivation is the full enlightenment rise as presented. So the 4 conditions generating this bodhicitta is, you know, it could be, we could say, yeah, I've got 1 or 2 or 3 of those, or none of those. Well, not none of those. It's got to be 1. It's got to be 1. So we have to arrive here by 1, if not more, of the following. So we hear the amazing splendor of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We hear about their qualities or their magnificence or so forth. And as a consequence, we generate that aspiration. state of enlightenment for the benefit of the world. So that's one way. Another way, maybe we don't have such a direct experience like that, but we read about, or we read the scriptures, we read the teachings, or hear them on the Mahayana sutras, and we get inspired by the descriptions of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Jataka tales and so forth, the life stories of Bodhisattvas. We get inspired by that, and that engenders this altruistic aspiration to enlightenment. Alternately, it could be that neither of them are, but, and I think all of us can relate to this, Buddhists or not, people can relate to this, being overwhelmed by concern for the spiritual state of the world. You know, yesterday evening, I was on a interfaith dialogue group. And so this is people of all faith traditions. I have to say, I was amazed by what this Baha'i guy was saying. He was saying, oh, he's totally into the Buddha, right? But everyone, and he was totally into like the teachings. Very interesting. Baha'i draws from all spiritual traditions. And he was just like expounding from his side. Wonderful. But each and every one collectively, this is what we were talking about, is about the state of the world and what we as faith leaders, I always have one being called a faith leader, I'm not a faith leader, but a person of some commitment in my faith, you know, and each and every one of us are collectively coming together around this on the basis of compassion, unable to, you know, bear the thought in our situation of these methods, these Dharma methods, particularly the teachings of Buddhism, the most profound unit of the great Scott, disappearing from this world system. And the danger is there. The danger is there currently. And so resolving to master, to achieve enlightenment myself, in order to help preserve the spiritual practices, the scriptural understandings, and so forth. And this is what we see our teachers doing. We see the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, making sure they get the transmissions and pass on those transmissions, as Lama Zopa said many years ago now. You Westerners need to have the realizations of Lang Rim on the basis of shunt, simultaneous concentration, so that then we can generate the wisdom mind and all the understandings on the way of the whole three scholars. Because the danger is the Dharma will disappear in the world, if not for us. No pressure of the body, but sometimes soon will be good. Basically, the sense of urgency. I think some of you may be bed to go with the lamp of the last, maybe a few people there. And Rinpoche's sense of urgency, get it. It was like, come on, wake up, folks. No, Rinpoche can say what we can't say. That sort of freaks you out your mind a bit. But it's this what all the great lamas of the past have done, taking on courageous endeavor. Yep. Go. And some people, this bodhicitta arises purely from an appreciation of the bodhisattva spirit, of the tremendous beauty and rarity of that. You know, as we have had the great fortune to have so many highly realized lamas around us, right, teaching us and so forth, and you know, to the extent that we see their ethical conduct, their practice, their energy, it's quite otherworldly, isn't it? Like they're on some other level. So this is this appreciation of the rarity of that. we think about the rarity of that in this world system, when, you know, the ordinary conversations and the ordinary leaders of the world, it's a very different level, right, of engagement for the benefit of the world. So in this way, even having practice the part, you know, looking at the qualities of solitary realizers, looking at the arhats, or those arhats, solitary realizer arhats, hero arhats, looking at their qualities, which are all sort of very profound, way beyond measure. And yet on top of that, this rare mind, the exalted mind, supreme mind, precious mind, holding that precious, holding that intense wish to achieve that ourselves, that bodhisattva mind. So we might relate to all four. And then on top, for causes that are explained. So having strong karmic instincts, or say imprints, seeds from past lives, which infuse our mind with the Mahayana teachings. So we made those aspirational prayers in past lives to meet with the Mahayana teachings, meet with the teachings of Dhamma Tsongkhapa again. Conclusion, we've done that before. Yeah, no mistakes. So we have the karmic tendency towards that. You know, why out of all the paths, you know, all the bodhisattva, all the Buddhist traditions available to me when I was in Sydney, what one did I gravitate towards again and again and again? And each and every one of us, maybe, or maybe we said we didn't know there was anything else. But this is also this past time arising in our minds. And having the guidance of a Mahayana authoritative, you know, scholarly, well-versed, well-practiced in all of this Mahayana teacher. Again, we look to our precious lamas, or the geshis, or the, you know, we've had the teachings from, or the high lamas we've had, that we have utter confidence in, that who have studied, you know, all the great Mahayana texts, 25 plus years. Or actually, you know, as we hear in Holiness the Dalai Lama, as we hear myself, you know, which is still studying, not giving up, studying, you know, still. And Lama Tsongkhapa emphasized that, really emphasized, yes, practice, yes, study, both, even both. Having a compassionate mind for living beings. You might say every human being has that child's arm, so every human being, so we're hardwired for it, we can't help but help, let alone some of our particularly mammal fellow sentient beings on this earth. We see that evidence, like here we have in bucket loads, have compassion for other living beings. But we might say, while all others have that, they're not necessarily activating that to a great extent, but here we're aspiring to activate that every moment, aren't we? Probably, unfortunately, beat ourselves up when we don't. Just rejoice that we do have this. It's very rare and precious. And a spirit that doesn't become enchanted, disheartened by the challenges that beset us, which they do all the time. You know, again, with my conversations with my interfaith friends last night, it was like one of them said, oh, but we've got, I mean, by the time she went through all the problems with the world, I felt overwhelmed, you know. And so, of course, we're going to be overwhelmed by that, unless we can generate a mind saying, yeah, we have current challenges today, 21st century. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges to develop shamatha because there's so many more distractions than at the time of Lama Tsongkhapa up there in the, you know, sort of, who's got this vision of up there in the plains, highlands, and mountains of Tibet, watching yaks. They are with the vast blue sky, pristine environment as it was there, looking after yaks. Anselm Hubbard talked about the chatterbox discursive mind. Nothing like what we have today with all the sensory input we have, which is phenomenal, you know, with the ADHD and all that. Because of it, the speed of the mind, the speed even of the body. You know, I don't know how many more records they can keep breaking in sports and so forth. So I was thinking just the other day having a conversation about global warming, how much more we can tolerate as human beings in the world. You know, apparently if we live in northern Western Australia, we can tolerate a lot more than we can here. I think I've just got very good aircon. So, you know, how much do we actually tolerate? There are challenges. There are always challenges. And it's also the challenge here, the greatest challenge is following on the body sacred path. The greatest challenge, and this is why each and every one of us are so important to each other, is that we're out of step with society at large. In one way, we can say, right, there is a lot of compassion there in the world, but this is the practice of, you know, the Kadampa masters, attending those jewels of the Kadampa masters says, be out of step with society. Have the courage to be out of step. If we're going to take on responsibility, have the courage to step out and do that one. I will do it. Having that in mind is a lot of courage. A lot of courage and determination. And then the four strengths which made, you know, feeds into this courage and determination. So we have our personal strength, our own efforts, you know, cultivating our prayers and our practice according to the Enlightenment. Oh yes, that's right. I want to become a girl. I want to do that. And the strength of others. So the inspiration of our spiritual teachers. Read the biographies. I mean, if you read, I mean, I'm sure, you know, those of you who've read biographies of Lama Tsongkhapa, it's phenomenal. Lama Concha, remember reading, you know, Unmistaken Child of Copan, which was actually about the accumulations of Lama Concha. And she's like, how can I just do that in my lifetime? Just remind me, how can you do all that? Isn't it? It's like that. We read the biographies of our teachers, we read the biographies of, say, the Nalanda masters and so forth, yogis. Not to overwhelm us with it's impossible, but to inspire us with it. They were determined to spend so much time. You know, that can inspire me. We need that strength. We need to draw on their strength. Why we continue to make the teachings in the world. And then the causal strength, which is, again, what we've brought with us from past lives, the tendencies we brought from past lives that act as a cause for the aspiration to enlightenment. So even though we may not remember that, there's a sense of, I don't know, I was thinking about, you know, when I was thinking about this morning, I was thinking there's a sense of familiarity or comfort. Oh, now we're in the great sky. Oh, this is, you know, sort of, I don't know if we can share that, but that sense of it must have been from past lifetimes. Because if I look at my family up then nobody was even Buddhist, let alone, I mean, I grew up Catholic. We had the bleeding heart of Jesus. We have a problem. Go on. It's recording. So we have that in bucket loads that we brought with us from past lifetimes. We just have to sort of, it's all hidden. As Buddha said, only the Buddha understands karma. We don't really see that, but we have to deduce if this is something that I have a tendency towards. Where does that come from? Does it come from past habits of having that tendency? And then we have our applied strength, which is the force of our meditation practice now, not, what do you say, not sitting on our rocks. None of it I've been sitting on that habit. But what we apply to our lifetime, the joyous effort, the enthusiasm, the patience we practice. So great compassion is powerful, important throughout the whole course of the Mahayana. We may have that initial thought or act of compassion or generate a mind of compassion, but we know we've got to repeat that, familiarize that over and over again, because our self-cherishing thought comes back and drives us. It seems to be constantly, right? Oh, that's right. So this 180-degree change of orientation from myself out towards others, compassion for others. And there's been many studies done on compassion and the different levels of compassion that we have as human beings, or as in another species. So we have that familial compassion, a sense of me and mine, my family, and so forth. Good. I mean, some people say, oh, actually, that's the hardest one for me to generate. True, I hear people say it is true. But say, that's one level of compassion. We've at least extended out to others, or biological compassion. And I hear His Holiness many times now saying, I'm one human being of, what is it, how many? 7.8 billion, currently, apparently somewhere around that in the world. I'm one human being. It says, I'm a refugee. So really resonating with those people with similar experience on the basis of our shared humanity. So our biological brothers and sisters. Or we say even mammals will care for others who are not their biological brothers and sisters. We're not from the same species. You see that? So, that capacity. Or we might have, we have the crisis compassion that comes along when there's the bushfires, when there's tsunamis, now in Tonga situation. And so we put all our efforts into that. But do we sustain it over a longer haul? Tony Sadala, I love that book, Widening the Circle of Life. We start with where we're at and we use that part of compassion to extend out to others, booster techniques. And now try this booster technique. And so we gradually enhance our capacity to grow and grow until we attain great compassion, not bearing to see the suffering of any suffering. We've got to continue to familiarize it, reinforce it, remind ourselves, have others remind us. There's always that danger of being overwhelmed if we don't, enhance that capacity gradually. This, like this woman was saying last night, it was almost like, this limitless problems, it's too overwhelming. She didn't say too overwhelming, but I felt overwhelmed just hearing her say what all the problems in the world were. We have friends like that, don't we? We just go, whoa, what can I do? What can I do? And what if we can just, okay, because it's mind generating the wish to enhance those capacities, develop those strengths and so forth. Also we have the danger that without all of these conditions and causes and strengths coming together, and even when they do, that we're overwhelmed by what has to be done. Oh, that's too much. There must be an easier way. I think one time, probably more than one time, when His Holiness was asking, is there an easier way to enlightenment? He just threw his robes over his head and cried. Because he probably remembers the hard eons. But knowing the effort that it takes, isn't it? So by more and more, on the other hand, meditating regularly on great compassion, turning our mind at 180 degrees from self-concern for my own happiness and turning back towards the welfare of others, until we become unshakable till we become stable in this altruistic attitude, bodhicitta, through also engaging in the practice of the six perfections. It says practice the six perfections. And then when you're at each of those bodhisattva grounds from number 2 to 7, it's the perfection of those. So we've got to start where we are at right now. So by training our minds in a way like this, it causes all our spiritual qualities to increase. So then turning to the actual methods of the six perfections, and not, okay, so the Buddha in the Sutra of the teachings of Daya Buddha, the path to enlightenment is twofold: wisdom and skillful means. The practice of the first 4 perfections is the practice of skillful means, and the last 2 perfections reveal the practice of wisdom. In other words, based on meditation. So to gain the ultimate wisdom, we need the power of the merit, the accumulation of the merit, positive energy, which is the highest merit that we can attain from benefiting ultimately limitless sentient being, but as many as possible right now. But it's first of all generating that mind wishing to do that. So the Buddha taught alongside that the 4 skillful means, and you can see they're complementary with the 6 perfections. The skillful means for benefiting others, skill in being able to fulfill their material needs for others, skill in being able to give whatever Dharma instructions others need, and when we look at perfection and generosity, we can see how that very much feeds in there. And the skill in being able to practice the Dharma ourselves, and the skill in being able to practice, whatever practical instruction we're able to give to others to help them. As long as what Papa said in the beginning, I sought out the instructions, so getting the teachers that we sought out the instructions. In the middle, I sought out the teachings. In the middle, it dawned as instructions for my practice. And then in the end, I put it into practice, attained the realization. And then look at the benefit that one continues to have in this world. It's quite profound. So the 6 perfections and the 4 skillful means contain all the methods that we need, all the skills that we need to generate this mind of bodhicitta, and to fulfill our own purposes and purposes. So when we say perfection, or paramita in Sanskrit, we talk about the paramita, Mahayana Paramita Sutra. It means reaching beyond limitation. It leads to the wisdom, which is beyond limitation. Wisdom, realizing emptiness that knows the reality, knows conventional and ultimate truth simultaneously, not contradictory. So from Maitreya's ornament for clear realization, it says, true perfection is the fully developed state of wisdom. Because the wisdom that realizes ultimate truth leads us to this fully developed state, not in limitation, named perfection. The practices of generosity, morality, patience, enthusiasm, perseverance, single-pointed concentration help us to cultivate wisdom so we can travel towards the perfection of wisdom. Thus, they are also called perfections. So therefore, to achieve the perfection of wisdom is the highest goal of the bodhisattva. But for that, we need to practice all the other perfections. So, and then keeping in mind the only reason we do that, the bodhisattva does that, is to achieve the benefit of another sentient being. So only the perfection of wisdom or ultimate bodhicitta, the basis of conventional orders. So for that, we engage in all these skillful activities through the practice of the six perfections. So here, the first perfection of generosity, we won't have time to go in elaborate detail, we're just sort of looking at outlines. In the hymn of experience, one song up says, generosity is a wish-fulfilling joy, satisfying the hopes of transmigratory beings, the supreme weapon cutting the knot of miserliness, the activity of the children of the conquerors that strengthens courage without dismay, and the basis of being renowned in the 10 directions. Having understood this, the wise rely on the excellent path of giving away their bodies, possessions, and virtues. I yogi, practice like this. You who desire liberation should do likewise. I just want to mention that we're prohibited from giving away our bodies until it is inconsequential as a leaf falling from a tree. So I'm quite relieved to be prohibited from that. But meantime, we do have a lot of meditation practices where we do visualize giving all our merits to others, giving all our accumulations to others, visualizing whatever others need and giving, which is the perfection of generosity, that wish, that aspiration. Not that we have to give everything away, but generosity. So the first perfection is called generosity because it releases others from suffering, but also as practice, as an antidote to our own self-grasping addiction. Second perfection, morality, releases us from feelings of remorse, of regret. So we've already talked previously, especially in the small scope, the practice of ethical conduct, the basis of vows in particular. That is one of the primary causes of having this precious human being. Morality is water cleansing the stains of faulty behavior. New light, dispelling the hot torment of the afflictions, as splendid as mountain root in the midst of the 9 types of beings. It gathers all transmigratory beings with no threat of force. Having understood this, holy beings guard morality correctly, taken as they do their eyes. I, a yogi, practice like this. You who desire liberation should do likewise. Perfection, just so we know at the moment. Third perfection, patience, is the finest ornament of the powerful, the supreme of all hardships, counteracting the torment of the afflictions, a Garuda against the enemy, snake of hatred, and thick armor against the weapon of harsh speech. Having understood this, cultivate the armor of supreme patience in many ways. I, a yogi, practice like this. You who desire liberation should be likewise. The practice of patience is overcoming all our difficulties. We have patience with those who disturb us with their harsh speech or acts, the snake of hatred. We have patience for ourselves with our Dharma practice. We practice, this is as the basis for perseverance, joyous effort. We have patience when difficulties arise, internal difficulties such as sickness and so forth, being able to tolerate. We look at, another word for patience is a mind of forbearance. And that's one of the levels on the path of preparation is the mind of forbearance. So like this, sense of being able to, how much more can I tolerate, you know, or how much more can I endure if I want to benefit others? I'm getting an experience of hot hells. How much of that can I endure? Not wanting to sizzle and fry because they're not being of no use to anyone, but just noticing our capacity for having patience. You know, because the mind of impatience is quick to arise, isn't it? And then that becomes a foundation for joyous enthusiasm, perseverance. When we don the armor like effort, steady and immovable, qualities of scripture and realization will increase like the waxing moon. I mean, it's so attractive. All your behavior becomes meaningful. And whatever actions are undertaken will be accomplished as desired. Understood as the conqueror's children. So conqueror's children, conquerors, the conqueror's children's example, put forth billion waves of effort, dispelling all laziness. All laziness. The laziness of procrastination, putting off to later, the laziness of I can't, the most debilitating one because it won't. Laziness and distraction to other things. Oh, yes, when I have time. All forms of laziness over time. Are you going to practice like this? You will desire liberation. So through that, enthusiastic perseverance, as long as the Dalai Lama says, never give up, never give up, never give up. An enthusiastic perseverance, then our spiritual progress is ensured. Everything will be accomplished as we continue to become. Concentration is a king ruling the mind when placed. It is as immovable as mountain root when sent forth. It engages all virtuous objects. Very important. We can concentrate on all sorts of things, engaging in virtuous objects. It induces the great bliss of a serviceable body and mind, physical planes, mental planes, lightness, being. Having understood this, the Lords of Yogis rely continuously on the meditative stabilization that destroys the enemy, destruction. The fifth one enables us to concentrate single pointed on any object and not be distracted. And destroys the enemy of distraction. By a yogic practice like this, you who desire liberation. And then the wisdom one, all these, in this life, of the attainment of wisdom, which is for the attainment of enlightenment. Wisdom is an eye, seeing profound vastness, the path eradicating existence. A treasury of qualities praised in all the scriptures, renowned as the supreme of lamps, dispelling the darkness of ignorance. Having understood this, the wise who desire liberation generate life with much effort. By a yogic practice like this, you who desire liberation should do likewise. And so then we go on in Lama Tsongkhapa's presentation, combine these two. So the only way to attain this wisdom mind is through combining with the other perfections, each and every other perfection. This is skillful means using our generosity so to attain that perfect wisdom, fully equipped with all the other virtuous qualities that we've developed, perfections, in order to benefit. So the Buddha taught these in a specific order, intention, purposeful. generosity, then practice of morality, then practice of patience, then perseverance, and concentration, wisdom, ultimately leading us from what is seen as perhaps easier practices. The practice of generosity is there in our society. It's not like that one's hard. We have multiple opportunities to practice generosity. But really, it's, and maybe, through pure intention, we can relieve poverty of peoples. However, it's also an antidote to our ego self-grasping attitude, which is all of us. So then, gradually we get better at that, giving a little more, until we can give according to the skillful needs of, giving satisfying material needs, giving Dharma at the appropriate time, in the appropriate way, in the appropriate circumstance, in a skillful way, not necessarily, giving a formal Dharma teaching, or even giving Dharma books, but giving wise counsel, being able to advise others from what we've learned, being able to pass that on in a skillful way. Appropriately. We don't always get it right. Give it a go. We fall down, we pick ourselves up, joyous perseverance. Just like all the great practitioners. So once we get better at one, then we progress to practice morality, which is easier than the practice of patience, isn't it? But we need that foundation of being able to have some control over our body and our speech, and ultimately we're working on overcoming the afflictions, which is certain states of mind, which is perseverance, also through patience. Fine. And so on. And so the practice of each perfection, it's almost like a natural evolution that leads to the next one. It's a sound basis to develop the next one. So why is generosity, practice of generosity, a sound basis for the development of morality? Is because the main obstacle for us to practice ethical morality or conduct is our attachment to mine, to me, my things, my stuff. I have attachment. Oh, and by the way, I have attachment to your stuff as well. And of course, as well, mine jealousy arises. Still, so this miserliness is what we have to overcome. So we overcome that attachment through our practice of generosity. And then the practice of morality forms a foundation to our patience, because generosity, that's through practice of morality, foundation of vows, holding vows well, controlling our body, speech, and mind, able to deal with challenges, which is what the practice of patience is, to be able to have a mind of resilience, have a mind not disturbed. Practice of patience is a constant, peaceful, it's a strength of mind, a mind of tranquility, even when facing difficulties in our lives. Says evenly, but we're always facing difficulties in our lives. There are always difficulties. Again, referring back to the interfaith dialogue last night. It's just like, there's a sort of discourse, and then thus has it always been. I remember my parents saying that. Oh, the world these days. Well, it's always been the world these days, and it's just been different challenges and different difficulties and so forth. Anywhere we are in samsara, we've got challenges, we've got difficulties, and frankly, I personally prefer that in this precious human existence, having met the teachings, with all the conditions coming together, and even with climatic conditions here, thank you very much, and everything, it's as good as it gets. So no matter where we are in samsara, there are difficulties, there are challenges, and so forth. So not to get frustrated by that, actually to accept. I mean, it's the teachings of the Buddha, the first truth. The nature of suffering, and where you are, just different manifestations of that nature of suffering, different intensities. So there's patience. It's the strength of the mind that allows us to endure difficulties without losing our inner tranquility, our culture. We need that to maintain enthusiasm for our practice. If we don't have patience, we need that, and that becomes the basis to develop enthusiasm. Unceasing enthusiasm. And I think for that sense of perseverance, we need each other desperately, because we have to sort of remind each other, our fellow Dharma friends, brothers and sisters, it's so, so important. And through that mind that has already got some basis of tranquility and calm through practice of patience, then generating that becomes foundation for generating single point of concentration. Because as the guy in Bombay, he said, I tried meditation once, it didn't work. So, how long did it take? 5 minutes, it didn't work. So there's no practice of patience there with the practice. Zero. Right? So of course it's not going to work. So there's no magic cure. It's all based on our diligence, our enthusiasm to continue going and to realize, when we look at the presentation on Shamatha, see, we're not going to have time, I was hoping initially to go into more detail about that practice, but we've got the Easter retreat coming up, Shamatha, and so forth. When you look at what it takes to develop that single point of concentration to such a point that it has this physical mental defiance. It used to be said that, well, sometimes you hear it takes 6 months, retreat setting. And then I remember one of my teachers, he used to say 6 months, and then he changed it to 18 months. And then somebody who's doing shamatha retreat, and after 2 years, she said, that's right. That's doing full-time retreat. Why doing a retreat? Because we've got to take ourselves away from the distractions, because our mind's not yet strong enough, to be able to generate it and maintain that. So that we've got to remove ourselves from these distractions, provide ourselves with the conducive conditions. So say, well, I don't have that in my mind. No, but we can develop to whatever level we can. We've got to do class for tomorrow. So, taking every opportunity, day by day by day, of single concentration on the cushion, off the cushion, in every aspect of it. So that then is the foundation for cultivating this. So it's important to practice these in a sequential way. And we also have in the presentation on Sokapa and Manang Chema, the Sokapa also presents unpacking the Buddhist teaching of how we practice each perfection within each perfection. Why? And then we can think about, okay, I'm going to have the capacity to go and do a long retreat or even a short retreat. I have commitments, I have family, there's a place to practice. We need all of these in our family situations. Wherever we are, we're practicing Dharma. Wherever we are, we're setting our Mahayana meditation, putting it into practice in all these. when we generate true compassion, a loving mind, equal regard towards all beings, which is the basis of even regard, on the simple basis that none of us want to suffer war. Then our only concern is for their well-being. The practice of 6 perfections is what enables us to achieve that mindset. Yeah. We want to be of pure service to others, but we have to do that through opening our own. Which is in those last 2 perfections, simple concentration. So when it goes on, with experience, more and the meditative stabilization achieved by one point of meditation is not enough. The individual investigation of proper analysis of the wisdom mind generate the meditative stabilization that abides firm and immovable from the emotional system. And seeing this, understand how wonderful are those who endeavour to accomplish the union of calm abiding and special insight. I, a yogi, practice like this, you who desire liberation should do likewise. So it's interesting, isn't it? If you look at perhaps some of you have Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the path to enlightenment, this practice is a whole volume. There's 3 volumes, just the practice of that union of calm abiding, of generating sympathetic concentration, calm abiding, and understanding of all the rational analysis, logical steps to apply to ascertain wisdom, reality, and then conjoining the two. It's a whole volume. That we need to study the commentaries, so forth, to understand and put into practice. So, arose, who developed that 7-point cause and effect meditation, or cause and result meditation, that I mentioned, we have these 2 forms of meditation to generate bodhicitta, seeing all beings as, first of all, a measurable equanimity towards all beings. I don't want to suffer. No. So do each and every other. And on the basis of that, recognizing from our understanding of time and our understanding of past lives that all beings are in one another. And so then we use the example of the mother of this life, or whoever mothered us, so forth, whoever plays that role in our life, to reflect on their kindness, which is immeasurable when we do reflect on it, generating the mind mission to repay that, generating love, affectionate love that sees all beings as attractive, including the cockroaches. Some big things that keep you awake at night, or you have an aversion to, so seeing them as attractive, in other words, in our mind, having a connection, a heart connection, a loving heart connection, more and more dear. That's the whole heart. And then generating compassion and wishing them to see, which is the basis of this special responsibility. I myself will do it by myself a lot. Arose explained in the compendium of Mahayana teaching how the practice of the 6 perfections, as in another presentation, is based on these 6 nobilities. You can see that there's many different approaches to how to look at this. First of these, the nobility of the base, generating a pure motivation as we do in our daily practice. Practices a sincere compassion, love, reflecting on the 7-point cause and effect, generating a sincere mind equally towards all other sentient beings. Because if I want to become a Buddha, this is what a Buddha does, regardless of whether they help, hinder, do neither, having the quality of, I can't hold each and every sentient being in my mind too much, but an equal regard, equal concern for each and every one, counteracting our biased mind, our partial mind that says, if you help me, I'll help you. But if you don't, well, you're off the radar. The nobility of the face, generating a pure motivation to practice this expectation, a sincere compassion for life, equally towards all beings, equal regard, equal wish to live into life. So, putting then, how do we do that? We can say it and it sounds nice, but it's just like, how can I practice that when I encounter any living being in my day to day? Oh, you're a fellow traveller. You don't want to suffer. I'm sure you're not going to step on it and take care of it. The second nobility, the nobility of the object, which is taking the instructions of the Buddha, or taking the purity of the Buddha's teachings, taking the extent of the Buddha's teaching, getting the teaching, and the practices of this again and again and again and again. Bodhisattva's way of life, that treatise on the path to enlightenment, precious garden, chapter entering the middle way. There's so many different texts, and actually you see his Holiness the Dalai Lama teaching these over and over again, and other teachers. And he brings different things. That happened, helping us to accomplish our goal. So Papa always emphasizes thinking out of stuff knowledge as important as putting into practice what we have. So of course, we generate a strong enthusiasm, a strong motivation at the beginning. As we go on, it can happen. I study, I practice, and forget what our motivation was, and it can just become self-serving, isn't it? I know for myself, when such a tricky mind. Venerable Rene Fussi. So you can apply emptiness in each of the perfections. Venerable Rene Fussi talked about he was doing a meditation retreat on emptiness. And there was an article in the Mandala magazine. And he said, when he sat down to meditate, whenever he perceived that self-grasping attitude arising, that egocentric mind arising, he stood up. So I did that. Went straight to the Shanti. It's like Venerable Rene. He's pretty amazing. I'm not. I said, I'd never be sitting down. And then, very kindly, Geshe gave a nice teaching on different levels of emptiness. But we understand more and more, but we recognize when we can and when that self-cherishing mind takes hold. And we exercise patience with that to be able to then got a ways to go, got a ways to go. We apply emptiness in each of these. Myself, the object of my patience. Understand what emptiness we have currently as I'm working on that into effect as we go through the day, as we go through the day. So, second mode. The third mode, mobility, is out of the goal. We have a good motivation, we keep going, we're going to keep our goal in mind, is what we're talking about. The fourth one, mobility of dedication. Pure dedication, whenever we practice any of the six perfections. Whenever we even remember about dedicate our merits, not only our merits to benefit our partner, the sentient beings, but we can collectively then to say, and then all the merits of every other being, every other Buddha, Bodhisattva, every other ordinary being, past, present, future, all my own accumulations. And we rejoice in that, we take delight in that. It enthuses our mind, that joyous effort just continues to grow, expand our mind, to expand our capacity. We also need a lot of skill, so we don't get disheartened. Use patience. Checking again and again whether our practice is influenced by the ego, by pride, by selfish gain. We're using practices, using wisdom, applying wisdom to encourage ourselves whenever we face any difficulties in our practice. And then the sixth one, the mobility of purity refers to the result of Buddhahood and enlightenment. So only bodhisattvas, courageous bodhisattvas, brave bodhisattvas, deeply concerned about the suffering of others, to engage in the difficulties of the bodhisattva path, deal with the stuff of the world, like this world, the system of numbers, to generating that strong sympathy towards others, suffering. I read through the final verses. In meditative equipoise, emptiness is like space. In post-meditation, emptiness is like an illusion. Through meditation on both, method and wisdom. So, in our meditation practice, sense of conventional reality, conventional truth doesn't arise, but it arises. Sense of emptiness, of inherent existence of just that space-like emptiness, spacing out, spacing life. And then in post-meditation, we see appearances, but it's like an illusion, it's like a dream. It's not unchanging, fixed as it looks. Everything, we train our mind like that. We use the analogy of a magician, sort of setting up an illusion and not being cheated by our deluded states of mind that believe the illusion to be as things are. So that until we're able to combine these two minds where appearances and we're not grasping at appearances, freedom, reflections, purification of cognitive observations, practices until we attain that, train our mind to see the illusion like just like a dream, just like we say a mirage, the image of still. We use whatever image is the face in the mirror, reflection, not the face. meditation on both method and wisdom are unified, whereby the perfect conduct of the conqueror children, praised. Having realized this, the tradition of those of good fortune is not satisfied by either path or either yogi practice like this. You desire liberation should do like this. And then on top of that, to come to the end of the bodhisattva's rounds and funds the perfection of the tantric practices and generated the common path necessary for the two supreme Mahayana paths, the causal and resultant, rely on a protector, a skillful master, and enter the great ocean of the classes of Tantra. Then through reliance on complete and perfect instructions, at the attainment of your leisures and endowments, human rebirth, meaningful, yoga practice like this, you who desire liberation should do likewise. And we dedicate all of that due to the virtue from explaining in clear words the perfect complete path, pleasing to the conquerors, so as to familiarize my mind with it and to benefit others of good fortune. I made the prayer. I made the prayer. May all transmigratory beings, all transmigratory beings, one, never be parted from the excellent pure paths. May I, a yogi practice like this, you who desire liberation, should do likewise. All so you who desire liberation should pray likewise. So it's like some couple is saying, I have attained this. This is how I've attained it. And each and every one as we go along the way. If you want to attain this, do just as I've done. Because I've done just as the Buddha said. And then pray that each and every other sentient being also is able to attain that state. So that completes this just sort of brief introduction to that practice, seek perfection, or means, or gathering means. We haven't gone into elaboration on arose and on cause and effect as a result. And also, as it is in Bodhisattva's way of life, chanting David's, equalizing and exchanging self with others. Although we have, in the way of what are we equalizing and exchanging? We're saying we're equal and we don't want to suffer, we're equal and we want to be happy. And instead of just focusing on myself, I'm extending hand and heart out to each and every other sentient being that I do throughout the day, my meditation, my motivation, and everything that I do. That self-cherishing attitude to develop all these qualities, the power and strength to do that. It's so delicious, I just find so much in that sort of sort of unsatisfactory to just do a sort of outline of that. But it's just an outline. Here we're just doing it. And then we take that into more some practice. See how to implement that in day-to-day activities, each and every one, and how can I implement that practices. For this example, any comments, questions?
This is perfection. We talk about starting generosity.
Yes.
But we're also supposed to sort of try and dabble in the other
Yes.
five as well.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, so this is the thing, there's I don't have the verse, but it's like a paragraph in Longson Papa's great treatise on the path to enlightenment, which just summarizes practicing each of the perfections with each of the perfections. And even we may not do each and every one. We can apply the emptiness thinking, whatever our understanding applies and so forth. But we can also, practicing generosity with pure ethical content, with the purity of mind and intention and so forth. So we can see how we do that and be patient with ourselves in our practice of that. Oh, I wasn't very generous today. Get better at it. You know, sort of like, okay, with the practice of giving, you know, how much before my mind grasps that, it doesn't get through. You know, how do we develop anything? How do we get through it? And do it over and over again. And knowing that, like for example, that practice of generosity is the perfection of that is the wish to give. Even you can't give, the wish to give. And you see that with our teachers. So oh, you want help? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? How can I be of help? That's the job of the Buddha. So we can see, you know, we just sort of try to how can I be patient with that? Have to respect it. Wow. It's generosity in that moment. I said, Joe, I didn't do it. Wow. I mean, Lama's Upper Rinpoche is always saying to us, wow, 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 wow. I think it's right. Enthuse us to enthuse ourselves, you know. Come on, you're doing a great job. Because that counteracts also this mind that's in this mind, which is counteracted. So yeah, very wonderful. Okay, so we'll leave this here. So going on from here, in February will be the Four Truths. So looking at the 16 aspects of the Four Truths as presented in Maitreya's Order. Yeah, so that will be our Fridays in February. And then I think we have a few other announcements. As I mentioned, tomorrow, our practice day, meditation day, primarily for it's not primarily for, that the meditators amongst us, is that everybody? So we have a meditation day 9 to 4, and then also we have at 5 o'clock, very excited, yes, Geshe Zoba coming to give us some instruction of the ritual aspects for the Guru Puja, for the song of the Guru Puja, not the whole Guru Puja. And so for that, even if you're not coming to the practice day, we're going to be setting up solve at lunchtime. If